Some breaking news here on the Hunter Biden investigation. So a couple of top-line things from the New York Times. Number one, a federal investigation into Hunter Biden continues. Let's put this up there on the screen. He had a significant, nearly $1 million tax bill that he had to take a loan out in order to pay and squash some IRS questions about some of his financial liabilities. But the most important one is that emails that were taken off of the Hunter Biden laptop were authenticated by the Justice Department and are being used in this federal investigation for violations of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, of foreign lobbying, and all sorts of shady stuff that he was up to. Here's the thing. Everybody knew, everyone who had a brain knew this laptop was real. And yet, during the election, I know it's been 2 years. I don't like talking about it. But guess what? We have to, because now the president's son is under federal investigation. The reason is that whenever they never denied that the laptop wasn't real. That's how you knew it was real.
Yeah, you knew it was real.
And yet the media, this has all the hallmarks of a Russian disinformation. I'll never forget that one. Oh, the hallmarks. Hallmarks? So it looks like a Russian disinformation op, except that the underlying material is true. And now the Biden's Justice Department is authenticated that laptop and using it as part of their investigation. Now, the really interesting stuff here, as recently as last month, a federal grand jury heard testimony in Wilmington, Delaware, one of whom was a former employee for Hunter Biden, in regards to money that Mr. Biden received from a Ukrainian energy company. The investigation, which began as a tax inquiry under the Obama administration, widened in 2018 to include possible criminal violation of tax law, as well as foreign lobbying and money laundering rules. Now remember, we already know from the Ron Johnson report out of Congress, which again was never denied, as well as open source information, that Hunter was taking money from all sorts of shady regimes. The Romanians, the Ukrainians, the Chinese, all of these very convoluted tax structures clearly designed to skirt U.S. tax law, which is also, it shows us another thing. If he needed a loan to pay his bills, he could be broke. That's another issue that he's had, which may explain why he was auctioning his fake art for hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, he pulled in some cash on that, didn't he?
I love how we all just brushed over that, right? Which is the president's son is selling, high dollar art in a clear corrupt move where we don't get to know who the buyer is.
Yeah, but he does.
But
Remember
he
they
does.
made that whole show of like, oh, it's going to be anonymous, and then it totally wasn't.
Well, it was anonymous to us.
Right.
It was not anonymous to him.
Right.
So actually the worst of transparency. Look, I'm not saying it's the most important story in the world, but it's very clear here that the mainstream media is going to ignore this one completely. And if one of Trump's kids was under investigation, which given Jared probably should be, it would be front page news.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
Instead, all of this is buried, at the very least, props to Ken Vogel, who is such a down-the-line reporter at the New York Times. He doesn't give a crap what people in the Democratic Party say about him or vice versa. And he's a true, I would say one of the last true, dogged reporters in Washington who cares about corruption.
He follows corruption, and it doesn't matter if it's
Saudi,
this president's
Russian,
sons or the last president's daughter. It doesn't matter. He really does stay on top of it. I mean, I think everybody's expectations in terms of whether there will likely be charges out of this, probably not. You'd have to say, because it's difficult to prove these sort of FARA type charges. So, I don't want to have like a walls are closing in on Hunter Biden.
Yeah, we're not saying that.
Kind of a moment, but it's extremely newsworthy and noteworthy that the president's son is under investigation. Someone who has admitted to basically trading on his family name in his, shady ass business dealings. And then the other part of it that is we should not let go is the way that the media treated this information at the time. You will recall, there was a mass censorship of the original New York Post,
which was
reporting
insane.
On this laptop, which was completely insane. Not only could you, not only was New York Post, they were taken down off Twitter. You couldn't link to the article. It really was completely overwhelming. And you could see the way that the Democrats and the Biden administration basically threatened them within an inch of their life to make sure that this information was pushed out of the public square. Now, ironically, I think it actually made it more of...
Oh, yeah. There was a big Streisand effect, for sure.
It got more attention because of that reaction. But you also, this also likely led to those new Twitter rules about about using hacked materials that they've implemented under their new CEO. So this continues to be extremely significant in terms of how social media handled these claims and how the regular press ultimately handled these claims. So, anyway, President's son under investigation. We should definitely be keeping an eye on it. And the other thing that they say here is that it may help his case that he was able to pay off the tax debt because juries tend to look favorably on people who have paid their bills. So
even though he had to take out a loan, here's the next question. Where'd that loan come from?
Where'd the money come
Based
from?
upon what asset?
Great question.
What was the underlying thing? Was it your art?
Yeah.
These are all...
Who was it? Do they have any business in front of the Biden administration?
Who are the business people? So was it a bank or was it an individual? So these are all great questions that the Justice Department should ask. Anyway, that's the latest on Hunter Biden, and we'll keep you guys updated. Hey guys, we're gonna be totally upfront with you. This is the most perilous time that we have ever operated in.
It is so difficult just to try to sort through the news, but even more importantly, to bring you accurate information as this wave of lockdown and censorship spreads across the nation.
Yeah, look, if you can become a premium subscriber today at breakingpoints.com, you're gonna help us build out a vibrant, independent media ecosystem, which is free of mainstream pressure. We can't tell you how important that is at a time like this.
Yep, that's right. Go to breakingpoints.com to subscribe. We love you guys and we appreciate you so much.